Hey guys, it is Wednesday night, so it's time for Worktable Wednesday Live. This is not nearly as funny as Saturday Night Live, but hey, I try. So here we go. Let me get my iPad up and running so I can keep track of where we are on this, and we will get moving. So, as I said in the teaser post, things are getting sketchy up in here, and so what we're going to do tonight is I am working on a sketch challenge. Now, some of you may or may not know what a sketch challenge is. A couple of the groups that I'm in, we do a probably monthly sketch challenge. And what it is you have a sketch of a card. This is obviously a top folding card set up in the landscape format. And you take this inspiration and you create a card based on this inspiration. So that is what we are going to do tonight. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to set this over to the side, and what you can see here is a standard card for using our cardstock. Starts with 5.5 on the wide, 4 1/4 tall, folded here at the top. You know, you could fold it this direction if you wanted to, but I'm going to do it this way. And then I've got a few pieces. I'm choosing to use the Playing with Patterns 6x6 Designer Series paper. And I'm highlighting this because this is one of the 15 sets of Designer Series paper that are on sale in October for 15% off. So this is a great time to stock up on your DSP. This includes both the holiday, some of the holiday paper that's in our August to December mini catalog, as well as some of our other paper that's in our annual catalog. So we're going to start with that. I'm also picking up a piece of, not a piece, but I'm picking up Night of Navy in here because I'm using these colors and I love this color combination. So I'm going to show these to you a little bit closer and you can see the stripes and the polka dots. So I'll be picking up Night of Navy and Coastal Cabana and Calypso Coral. So let me grab my ink because I did not get that pulled over before we start. A little bit of the debate, but not a lot. I did pause it because I do want to do my live, but I'm going to come back and watch it later. So the first thing we need to do in this setup, and so here are my inks. So I used these this weekend on the World Card Making Day. We had a World Card Making Day video marathon, sort of like the old Turner Movie Classics had their movie marathons. We had a video marathon on my page, which is obviously Stampin' Dream in Color SU, and Elizabeth's page, which is Spread Joy Stamping, and then over on the Pretty's Team page, which is our upline, Kay Cogbill. And between the three of us, Kay had arranged for a number of people to work on videos throughout the day. And I think if you add the three pages together, we probably produced maybe 6, 12, 24, 25 videos throughout the day. So, and amazingly enough, none of them were identical. They were all very different. So, all right, so we've got our colors. So let's set those over here. Okay, if you're here, please comment so I can see who's here. I see somebody's watching with me, and so I'm excited to see you tonight. All right, so I'm going to put my diagram here. So one of the things that I do when I use a sketch challenge, let me go back to this and bring it over, is that I like to kind of guesstimate what the measurements are. So if you know that that's 5.5 and this is 4 1/4, you can kind of estimate, okay, this is likely 2 inches by 4 inches. This is going to be 2 inches probably, and obviously it won't be much more than 4 1/4 inches this way. And you kind of say, well, this looks like this is probably 1 3/4 by 1 1/4. You know, I could have scaled this off if I wanted to, but well, that takes all the fun and excitement out of this, so we won't do that. Now, to get started, I will say that this also has a mat on this page, and I chose to go through some of my scraps, and I already had this mat cut from the Night of Navy, so I decided and that's how I chose my color palette tonight, because I knew I had this piece cut already. So we're going to set that aside for a minute. So we need to first make our pennant behind everything, and we think it's about 2 inches wide. So let's take our trimmer and now this is a 6-inch piece of paper, so it's 6 by 6. So if we use a 2 by 2 trimmer, or if we cut this at 2 inches wide, we know that we will have another 4 by 6 piece of paper to use. Now I'm choosing to make these stripes go vertically because I don't know why, because I just wanted to. Now something else that you're going to note is that there are a couple of different ways to make this big pennant, the foot or the tail of this banner. One of them is to use our, let me get it out of my box. I have my punches and I can't quite reach it. I'm going to have to stand up and get it. Just a second. This is what I get for not being prepared. So this is the banner triple punch. So what we can do with this is we can cut this nice pennant tail right here at three widths, 2 inches, 1.5 inches, or 1 inch. That's the 1 inch, there's the 1.5, and there's the 2. But you say, well, I don't have one of those yet. Well, first of all, you need to get one of these. But I'll show you a little trick that if you don't have a banner punch like that, something that you can always do when you're working with paper like this is to figure out where the 1 inch is. So these are actually centimeters. We're not going to use that. We'll use this ruler right here to figure out where the 1 inch mark is. So these horizontal lines are 1 inch. So let's grab a pen and let's just very gently, very lightly mark the 1 inch line. Okay, so what you can do is on the 1 inch line, which is halfway up, snip it like this. And you see I've just snipped it just about 1/2 inch up in there. And then all you're going to do is come back and cut from this point to that center point. And you're going to cut from this point to the same center point. Now it may not be perfect, but that's what you get. And you have a nice fishtail on your banner. I'm going to choose to turn around and do it with the punch because I know that it's going to give me a deeper fishtail. So all you do when you want to use this punch is that you slide your paper in like that. I oftentimes will flip it over to make sure it's butted up and it's even on the end, and you squeeze your punch and there you have it. So there's the difference. You have two different types of tails. Now we know that this will be no taller than 4 1/4, but it's going to be less than the height of this mat. So we know that we've got plenty of room to put this on here like that. So we're just going to lay this down and start building our card like that. Now, the next thing we need to do is figure out, do we want to put a piece of Coastal Cabana across here, or do we want to use the Calypso Coral? Or do we want to actually use a piece of the Designer Series paper, and then we can actually mat it with one of these colors of cardstock? So let's take this. Again, I think it's about 2 by 4, and it may be a little bit smaller than that since we're using it on a little bit smaller base. But let's start with the 2 by 4 and see where we go. And this is the fun part, is that I like putting this little description out here, not description, but the sketch, and working to get to something that I think will be suitable for the card. Now this mini trimmer is great because it does create just a 2 by 4. Now this obviously comes in over here, and we can have this like that. So that's about the right scale. But I do want to mat that with a piece of cardstock. So the question then becomes, do we mat it with the Calypso Coral, or do we mat it with the Cabana looks like? And I'm going to recommend we use a really fine, really narrow margin. So unfortunately this piece is just not quite big enough. That's out of my scrap bucket, but I do have a piece here. So let's take this. Oh, and I'm so excited. My new adhesives came in yesterday, and I have not gotten them out of the box yet, but I'm going to use the very end of my snail and get that picked out and use all of that. So now let's come down here, and we're just going to adhere that. So let's trim this. And using this guillotine trimmer, you can see it's going to come just along the side of the printed paper, the DSP. Coming around this direction again. And sometimes I like bringing it from this angle because I know a little bit better where it's going to land. But let's do that and trim it. So now we have a nice, neatly trimmed piece of cardstock. Now, we'll put that there. So that leaves this piece out of Whisper White, because I'm going to put that on Whisper White, and I've got some scraps of Whisper White. And I think it's about 1 1/4 by 1 3/4. But before I do that, I'm going to show you the sentiment I'm going to use, which is this Mini Mates, Just Thinking of You. I think that is such a pretty little sentiment right there. And then, you know, there are any number of things. If you can be just thinking about you or just thinking of you, it's so happy for you, you're so nice, thinking of you on your retirement, life is better with you. Or, hey, better yet, because, you know, we're having some challenges getting through everything. Hey, Allison, how are you? Good to see you. And then because you make me smile. So let's go ahead and pick that up, and let's go ahead and stamp that first, or make sure that it's going to fit on the, let's try 1 1/4 by 1 3/4. So we'll do 1 1/4. So there's 1 1/4. It's going to be tight, guys. Let's see. Oh, that'll fit. By 1 3/4. Okay, let's set that aside. This little trimmer aside. And then let's go ahead and stamp this. And I think because we've got the other colors going with the cardstock, let's go ahead and pick up, just use the Night of Navy for our sentiment here in the front. And then, so we'll stamp it. And you know, all of our inks and our papers are all color coordinated. So I'm going to stamp it over here on my scrap pad, make sure looks like it's doing okay. I think this Night of Navy is one of my original stamp pads because I love navy. And I think I'm going to have to re-ink it real soon. So let's go ahead and put Just Thinking of You on the 1 1/4 by 1 3/4. And then pull that off. I'll wash my stamp later. And then we will move these scraps out of the way. And like I said, I keep a little bucket with all my scraps in it. I sort them by color because you never know when you could use just a small piece. So here's a small piece of the Calypso Coral. And again, I want to trim it. I don't want to mat it with just a very small piece. So we're going to take our adhesive and put it on here. I just got it on the side of it. We're going to get that cleaned up. So this is what I did this weekend. Like I said, we had so much. You haven't used your mini trimmer in a while. Patience. I keep it on my desk. I love having my mini trimmer on my desk because sometimes that's just the best thing to have, to use. Let's see. I want to get this just right. I don't know why I'm having so many troubles with this, but let's do this. We'll go ahead and line it up here. Now this piece of paper, because it's been in my scrap bucket, has gotten a little worn on the edges. So I actually pulled this down just a scotch, and I'm gonna trim off that little rough edge, and then I'm gonna trim off right here. How many of you have to close one eye to line stuff up sometimes? I know that I used to make fun of my mom when she would do that, and now I catch myself doing it. This, and when I thread a needle and do some other things like that. Okay, so we have that piece, and we're going to stick that there. We'll be using dimensionals to put that up. So what else do we need to put on here? Oh, ribbon embellishment that goes across here, and some brads of some sort. So I'm going to go over into my lucky bucket of embellishments. And so we have these resin dots that we can put on the mat. And then I have a favorite ribbon that I use every opportunity I get. And because we have so much going on, I think I want to stick with a white ribbon. So I love polka dots. Sorry, I had to dig around and get that. And so I'm going to pull this polka dot tulle ribbon and use it. Now I'm going to leave it white for the time being, but for my next card, I might actually dye it another color. So there you go, don't fall. All right, so let's start assembling our card. Since this all fits onto the mat, we're going to assemble it right here on the mat, and then we'll come over and put it on the base. And the other thing to keep in mind, when you're borrowing a sketch like this, look at the ribbon and it stops at the edge of the mat. So that tells you that once you construct this, you'll put your ribbon on before you attach it to your card base. All right, so the first thing we need to do is place our pennant and figure out where it goes. I keep putting it at the wrong spot. So let's put it right here. Like I said, we're going to use a little bit of this snail because I'm trying to use it up and get it off my desk. Finally got my new stamp and seal refills in. Okay, so to make sure this stays even. Now, I'm not normally, a lot of times I'll eyeball it, but sometimes I get fancy and want to make sure everything's good and straight. So let's do this, and that way our tails will butt up against the ruler, and we'll put that down. Now you think, well, what's going on here? Here's what we're going to do. Through the magic of cutting implements, we're going to come back. And look at that, guys. What do I have? I have another tail to use if I so choose. So then we will take the next piece, because you know that this piece goes on top because it's the one that's whole. It's not on top of anything. It's not underneath anything. So we'll put this here. So we'll adhere that to the card base. Let's see, I'll put this up where you can see it. And we're going to eyeball that, make sure it's straight. Generally eyeballing it's good. Okay, so before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and stop and put my ribbon on so I'm not having to wrangle that with everything else. Now there are a couple of ways to put your ribbon on that are easy. Something like this is, ooh, that is as crooked as, I don't know. Isn't there an old children's rhyme about a man with a crooked back? I can't remember what that is, but I remember there being one that crooked back and all those types of things. So for this, it's a light enough, and what I mean by that is it's thin. You'll be able to tie a bow and it not be too bulky. Sometimes if it's a thicker ribbon, one of the little tricks is to tape just a single pass of the ribbon like this on the front of the card and then tie the ribbon onto it. But this time, I think I'm just going to go ahead and tie it on myself. Now, when you're estimating how much ribbon to cut, I usually go around, I go to the card twice and then leave probably double that so that I have enough to make my tails. And one of the cool things about not attaching your ribbon down yet is that you can take this and either double tie it, or you can tie the bow and then fluff it up and foosh it up. And, you know, if you wanted to, you could actually always come back and tie a double bow. You could actually come back and tie this again because your tails are long enough, it looks like. So let's get this down. And I just, well, I can't seem to get that like I want it. And the beauty of live productions. So let's go ahead and do a double bow just for giggles. I love this ribbon. I do too. I'm telling you, Patience, I bought it last year when it was in the catalog last year, and I think I must have bought 6 rolls of it just because I didn't want to run out, because you can do anything with it. I mean, because it takes the colors so well, and that's something I'll show you. in a, you know, I'm not going to double tie that. That's not going to work. I'm just going to tie a bow and move on because it's just now getting ugly. Uglier. You can dye this ribbon with our reinkers, or you can dye it with our alcohol markers. You can obviously leave it plain as it is, plain white. I like. And then, all right, so we're going to stop messing with that because the more you mess with it, the worse it gets. All right, so we'll cut those off and put those in the trash. So now we've got our bow. Now we have our pennant. We have our big banner. So all we need to do at this point is come back and put this on. Now, I am going to use dimensionals to put this on because I think it needs to stand off the page just a scotch. And I think it's small enough that we can probably get by with 2 of them. Okay. And then we'll put that like that. Let's see. So this, because I'm using a smaller base than what this called for, it's getting a little cozy on the front of this card, but I think it's okay. And then let's come back over here with these, and we can pick up these 3 colors. So these colors are Coastal Cabana, Crushed Curry, and Purple Posy. So what we'll do is we will put 3 of these not dimensionals, excuse me, 3 of these epoxy dots over here. Now, I don't think, I would normally go with a larger one at some point, but I think I'm going to go with the small ones simply because it's so cozy. So let's do that. And then that. Now, I chose to put the Coastal Cabana on the bottom because to me, that's a darker color, and this Purple Posy is a lighter color, and it just carries less visual weight. And so I want to put the heavier color, what to me is visually heavier color, on the bottom. So there's the front of the card ready to go. So now all we have to do is pick this up, come over here, put our snail on. Like I said, it'll be stamp and seal next week, I promise, because I will run out. And then pick it up and put it on. We have a super simple Thinking of You card. Ooh, looks like I'm freezing up. So there's a card, and so you can now go back and compare it to the sketch that I used, and you can see the similarities. Now, let's see if I can put them side by side. That might be the easier thing to see. So you can see the similar elements of the sketch. Now, I'm probably going to make another one of these for our sketch challenge, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. I may turn it around a little bit. But this sketch doesn't have to be followed, you know, word for word. It's not a verbatim sketch, and it's not an absolute, it's just an inspiration point. So if you're looking to stretch your creativity a little bit, join one of our sketch challenges on one of our team groups, or one of our sites, or one of our pages. We're running challenges at different times. Thanks, Patience. I appreciate that. I'm so glad you got to come by tonight. But look at our sketch challenges, and like I said, I'm going to be doing some other things. But this is a great way also if you've got a little bit of a block. If you're just tired and you think, I need to make a card, but I don't know what to do, pick up a sketch challenge, pick up a sketch, and start from there. So that's what we have tonight. So we used the Pattern Play DSP, Night of Navy cardstock, Calypso Coral cardstock, Coastal Cabana cardstock, and the polka dot tool ribbon, and the Pattern Play epoxy dots to make this sketch challenge card. So it was fun being with you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget, if you're interested, the videos that we ran this weekend at the World Card Making Day are on my Facebook page, and then I'm going to be pushing them over to my YouTube channel soon. So be sure and go check those out. All right, thanks a lot, and good night, guys. Bye-bye.